You expect to win every day, you want to be better every day. But what I'm more like I'm happier about is the way we're playing.
Okay.
So obviously the wins and loss, that matters. But for us to get to the point where we have a chance to win the Stanley Cup, we have to play a certain way. And we're building this team to have a relentless pressure, play with speed, character players that never give up. And if you watch us play this year, I mean, there's probably 2 or 3 games you're like, oh man, we didn't really play well. Every other game for the entire season, you're like, wow, it was tough to play against the LA Kings this year.
What's up, Kings fans? Welcome back to another episode of Tradin Jabs. Joining me is Kings royalty and by far the most decorated person we've had on the show so far. Hockey Hall of Famer and president of the Los Angeles Kings, Luc Robitaille. Luc, thanks so much for taking the time.
That's a nice entry. A lot of good BS. How are you, my friend?
I'm great. And it's a pleasure to talk to you. And again, thank you so much for taking the time.
No problem. It's always good to be talking with you.
Much appreciated. I wanted to start by taking you back to the offseason heading into the 2019 season. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of when this retooling phase began for the LA Kings. Given your expectations of where you hoped the organization would be, where it is now, and the reality of this team pushing for a playoff spot, how satisfied are you?
I think we're where we expected to be. I mean, if you go back, we kind of started probably the process when we traded Jake Muzzin at the time. I think it was like 2018 or 19? I can't remember. You said
18, I believe, yeah.
That was like the direction. We always said at this time that was the goal, to be competing. I think last summer we mentioned that. So am I surprised? No. You expect to win every day, you want to be better every day. But what I'm more like I'm happier about is the way we're playing.
Okay.
So obviously the wins and loss, that matters. But for us to get to the point where we have a chance to win the Stanley Cup, we have to play a certain way. And we're building this team to have a relentless pressure, play with speed, character players that never give up. And if you watch us play this year, I mean, there's probably 2 or 3 games you're like, oh man, we didn't really play well. Every other game for the entire season, you're like, wow, it was tough to play against the LA Kings this year, this game. And I think that's what makes me the happiest. We're building a certain culture, and that's how you become the team that, that can have an opportunity to win a championship.
You talk about that elusive pressure, and that's something that, the organization, the coaching staff was very vocal about, especially going into this season. As we talk a little bit about the retooling and trading Muzzin in 18, and then, starting from the bottom in 19, Todd McLellan is someone you brought in on a 5-year contract in 2019. What have you made of his ability to kind of put this roster together? And again, at this point, fighting for a playoff spot and in good contention?
Well, like I said, I like the way we play. And, I like the pressure that we put on teams. You could sense that it's hard to play against us. It's hard to get in the zone. We move it out quickly. I like when a team plays fast. And so Todd, Blakey, I remember him talking to me about Todd, like he's a really good coach. He's a good communicator, breaking it down in the way to teach a certain system to your players, and he's done so far a really good job at that.
4 guys that remain from the Stanley Cup years, obviously people that are going to be up in the rafters one day, and Anze Kopitar, Dustin Brown, Drew Doughty, and Jonathan Quick. From the president's perspective, can you try to put into words the value of what they mean to this current organization?
Well, I mean, these guys won the Stanley Cup for the LA Kings. We should be grateful to, for sure, these 4 guys, but all the guys that won us Stanley Cups here. It's never been done before, and it's truly special. But those 4 guys are, extra special in their character. They're still really good players. They still want to compete every day. They show up in the summer. They're the first one in the gym, and they do a lot of little things off the ice to help your organization in the right direction. I mean, I remember when Dean Lombardi was kind of retooling the Kings in 2007 and 8, he had to go get guys from the outside to teach our young guys to win. We're lucky that we have these guys to teach our young guys what it takes to be first a real pro, and then second like a winner. Like just when the game matters, like you want those guys like playing for you, and they'll know how to handle every situation.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's kind of actually leads me right into the next question. And you talk about these guys setting a good example and still being guys that are, extremely valued to the organization, leading the team in points, leading in minutes played, all these, veterans who have been through thick and thin and have now finally gotten to an organization in a place where they can win again. And, how much does that mean to a roster that is extremely young and inexperienced at times, as we start to include more prospects within the daily basis of this team?
I mean, it's everything, like we're lucky that Kopi's still playing at his level, and Jonathan and Brownie, and obviously Drew, because they're leading the organization. At the same time, they're still our best players. And that's really making a big difference, because the young guys will see the way they handle themselves, and their goal is to be if you want your young guys to, when you pick the right young guys, you want them to, in their mind, they want to end up being better than Kopitar, or like be the guy like Kopitar. You put in Byfield to think that way. Now, what a better way to learn than to learn from Anze Kopitar, when you're coming in, because that's an opportunity that not all players get to have. Like, I was very fortunate when I was young, when we got Gretzky, but people forget we got John Tonelli, we got Larry Robinson, we got Charlie Huddy, and these guys were coming, Kelly Rudy, these guys were coming in, and they really helped me, like, understanding that to win, it's not just about the way you play, it's what you do for the team, within the team. So that was really helpful to me, and I could see that our guys now are really helping us, for that next level of play we expect.
For Drew Doughty in particular, he's someone who just celebrated his 1,000th game over a week ago. You were on the ice congratulating him with him and his family.
Yeah.
Talk about the development of him from, coming into the organization in 2008 and what he means back then and what he's turned into nowadays.
Well, Drew is like the ultimate competitor. He just wants to win. He wants to play hockey and win. So it's really interesting, because he's one of those players, the better your team, the better he is.
Yeah.
When your team struggle, it's not fun for Drew. He wants to win, and he gets frustrated. When your team's playing well and you're playing against the best player in the world, he thrives. He becomes even better. And it's a gift that's very rare in athletes, that the more pressure there is, the better he is. I mean, you think about that. There's very few guys. I mean, we were talking about it the other day, like 1,000 games on one team, 2 gold medals, Norris Trophy, 2 Stanley Cups. This guy's done it all. And every time he's done it, he was either the best player or one of the best players on that team, or for sure the best defenseman on that team, which is truly incredible. And so, I don't know, we're lucky that we got him, that's for sure. But his character is what's taken him to that next level, that everybody wants to kind of jump on his back and just go with him.
Yeah, no question. He's one of the most decorated players in the game today. And moving to people who we hopefully become some quite decorated players, and that's some of our young prospects. The depth that you and Rob Blake and Mark Yannetti and the rest of the hockey operations organization has been able to build within the prospect pool is amazing, and frankly mind-boggling in many ways. How has that been such a focus for this team to be able to look towards the future and be confident in what you guys have right now?
Well, we're real happy with the progress of, I would say, most of our young guys, coming up. We understand it takes time. I mean, if you look at it, there's a period where you got to make the NHL and you got to become a player that's involved. But most players end up really helping their teams win at 24, 25, 26. So we're aware of that. So we want to make sure we do it right with them. You know, to mention about what we've done since 2007, last summer, actually probably the summer before, when we traded down to get Brock Faber, but we never traded any picks. You know, so for the last 5 years, except for the last draft, because we kind of took a different approach last draft because we have so many prospects. You can only play so many. So we suddenly went from a shotgun approach to a sniper approach, if you call it like that, and we traded different picks to acquire the guys that we really wanted. We were very, very happy to get Clark at number 8. Our guys had him ranked really high, you know, so that was the defenseman we were looking for. And then after that, when Marky and Eddie saw that Pinelli was available in the second round, where we had him ranked in the first round, we traded a few picks to get him. And then the Elenius, the big center that's 6'6", that we really believe he'll end up being an NHL player. We traded down, then they were in love with that Russian defenseman. So we trade a lot of picks just to make sure we got the guys that we feel can help us, because you can't it's not even fair for a prospect if you have too many. Yeah. It's not fair to them for their career also. So we'd rather have, right now we're in a situation, we'd rather have guys that have a real shot with us than versus just having a bunch of guys around. And
quality over quantity, really.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we're at. I mean, you think probably a year or two from now, we're going to go back. I think if there's one lesson to learn is you're going to have to give up prospect or pick sometimes to make trades and so forth. But you want to make sure you still got the pipeline coming as much as possible, you know?
Yeah, no question. And you know, I've had the fortune of talking to quite a few of our prospects, you know, on this show and just obviously doing features and having conversations with them. And it's become so abundantly clear that, you know, the organization is not only drafting hockey players, but they're drafting great personalities and players that are extremely mature beyond their years. You know, how much of a focus has that been for you guys to, you know, not only find a good player on the ice, but a great person off the ice?
Well, it's been a really big focus. I would say our number one focus the last 4 years drafting has been character. And if you're going to be a player with a lot of good character, that means you're a good person, you know. And that's been a number one priority. Obviously, speed and skill, hockey sense, it had to be part of the. We didn't really look at size. We didn't really look at what positioning. Let's get the best player available at that point, but it had to fill up certain box, and the character and we call it intangible box had to be filled up. You know, we had to get the kind of player that will be a great teammate, that will do whatever it takes to win. They'll be a great citizen. You know, sometimes you hit and miss on some of those, but it's been a very, very big philosophy of ours to get the right person.
Yeah, well, no question. It's been quite successful so far in the results that we're seeing, both in LA and in Ontario. But when you look at the draft and the way that these players are developed once they've been picked, you know, how do you relate that to 1984 when you were drafted and how it's changed since?
Well, I didn't know in 1984 that probably no one really knew me. They had no videos, then nothing, you know. And I don't even know how the heck it was one scout that attended all of my games. So, and he was an LA scout. That's how I got picked. But I didn't know then too that coming to camp, you kind of have an idea on a kid, and you know, like I would have 3 scrimmages and have 6 goals in 3 scrimmages. I thought I made the team, and then they would send me home. I was so disappointed. The next year, the same thing, but you know, there wasn't a lot of work done in those days on development. Like I was fortunate, I got to live with Marcel Dion. Guys like Dave Taylor were around. Like later, like I said, Larry Robinson, obviously Gretzky, and they really helped me. But no one really spent time on the development. Like we're fortunate now with Jared Stowe, Matt Green, Sean O'Donnell, Mike Donnelly. These guys are veterans, and they have the saying there, you know, I wish I would have known that when I was a player. And so they make sure they tell the kids coming up, look, this is what it will take. And development is not just what you do on the ice, what you do off the ice, in the locker room. What does it take to become a real pro? You know, it's a long season. So our guys are pretty lucky to have these guys around teaching them exactly what it will take to be a good pro and a great king.
The last question I have here for you, Luc, is, you know, you played over 1,400 games in the NHL, you know, just under 1,400 points. You win a cup with Detroit in 2002. You retire in 2006. And once that retirement phase began, you know, how long did it take for you to realize you wanted to get back into the NHL and ultimately take on a role as the president of an organization?
Well, it's kind of funny. My wife thought I was going to retire and be home, and I was like, I don't think I can do that, honey. I was fortunate at the time that the Kings went right away on some type of rebuild, and Tim Lewicki and Dan Beckerman, they hired Dean Lombardi. So Tim asked me at the time, what do you want to do? So I said, I'd like to really learn everything about the organization first. So he let me be, you can call it consultant, but I said, I want to be in your office. And I attended a lot of hockey ops meetings just to understand what it was. And I saw that the Kings needed someone, like if you're a Kings fan and you buy season seat and you pay your hard-earned money to be, you want to make sure that someone really takes care of the Kings. And at the time we had built you know, which was Staples Center then, and then LA Live was coming, and we had the Galaxy and everything. And I could see the season seat holder, there was no one really talking to them, just saying, look, we care and we understand how you feel. This is what we're doing, explaining. So after a year, I went to the group at AEG, Mr. H, who's Tim Lewicki, Dan Beckerman, and I said, I think there's a need there to really personalize the Kings, to build a culture. To build a culture, it's an easy word to throw around in sports. So, you know, you got to go so, but it's something you got to live every day. It's as an organization. It's not just the locker room is the most important thing, but everything that goes outside, our people that sell tickets, our people that do the marketing, we all have to be on the same page. And it's not an easy thing to do in sport. Now, every organization does it, but there's a big difference between winning and just finishing close. And everything we do, we're trying to get to winning the last game of the season, and that's always the goal. You know?
Yeah, well, no question, you've helped build a great culture and a winning culture as well. And Luc, I thank you for the time, and thanks for joining Tradin Jabs.
All right, it's great to see you, my friend. I'll see you around the office.
Yes, sir.
Don't be late next time. He's never late. He's never late, anybody.